here in Tennessee, and it's another one that it kind of strains your credibility, but it happened. We've even talked to people who were actually present when it happened. The first funeral of Bush Brazil.
In 1938, a 74-year-old Roane County resident named Felix Uncle Bush Brazil drew national attention by attending his own funeral.
Uncle Bush was a lifelong bachelor. He said,
"I couldn't have the woman I wanted, and I never wanted the women I could have."
Well, since he didn't have any descendants to take care of arrangements after he died, he thought he'd better make his own plans. First, he thought he needed a nice casket, not one of those shoddy store-bought ones. So he took wood from the largest walnut tree on his own farm, and he made his own casket.
Now, while Uncle Bush was working on that casket, he developed an intense desire to see his own funeral service so he could be sure that the facts of his life were correctly set out. Part of the reason was that years earlier, he'd been charged with murder, although he was later acquitted.
The area newspapers discovered Bush's plans and publicized them. A funeral home in Knoxville lined his handmade casket for him. Area businessmen took him the 40 miles to Knoxville and had him fitted for a brand new suit. And florists in Knoxville, Lenoir City, and Chattanooga provided floral arrangements for the occasion. After the service, souvenir hunters stripped the floral arrangements bare.
On the day of the service, people flocked to the area from all across the country. One observer counted license plates from 13 different states. The service was scheduled for 2 p.m., but by 9 o'clock in the morning, there were more than 1,000 mourners outside the small Cave Creek Baptist Church near Kingston. By the time the service started, there were 8,000 in the crowd.
Concession stands that were selling sandwiches and soft drinks added to a carnival-like atmosphere, and the resulting traffic jam on the narrow dirt road delayed the funeral procession for 40 minutes.
The procession was led by the loud undertaker. He was followed by several press cars. And then came the hearse, with the polished black walnut casket in the back, and the deceased seated beside the driver.
People pushed in to get a closer look, and police had to clear a path so that the pallbearers could carry the empty casket to the front of the huge tent that had been set up beside the small church. Uncle Bush, with his neatly combed beard and his brand new suit, followed the casket and seated himself beside the casket in the church.
Gospel groups from Kingston, Knoxville, and Chattanooga provided music for the service. The pastor, who was the former pastor of the Rockwood Christian Church, came all the way from Paris, Illinois to deliver the sermon. The crowd was noisy, but the Roane County Banner described Uncle Bush as calm as a September morn, as he sat listening to the service with a slight smile on his face.
4 years, after the service, the people rushed up to see him, and they wanted to shake his hand and get the programs that had been printed for the event signed. Bush obliged them by shaking every hand that was held out and putting his X for his signature on the programs. After about 5 hours, when the crowd had dissipated, Uncle Bush took his handmade casket and returned to his farm alone.
In the weeks that followed, Uncle Bush was in great demand for theater appearances in local parades. He was featured in an illustrated article in Life magazine and even appeared on Ripley's Believe It or Not radio program.
4 years and 7 months later, Uncle Bush died. And at his own request,